Hey folks, Les here again from 6S1 with another look at some features of our new human figure Scarlet. This time we're going to be digging into some of the things that we've included in her face and head. Really, in creating artwork, the expression in a human face is so vital to conveying story and feeling that we've really taken a lot of time. The morphs and shapes that are built into her have been sculpted and resculpted and tested and tweaked over and over throughout 6 solid years of development on this character. And her subsequent counterpart, soon to be released, also Jonathan. So I just want to take a moment and do a quick demonstration showing just some of what is available inside Scarlet's face and head right out of the box. So let's go ahead and click on Scarlet's head, and I'm going to jump straight to the expressions group under our morphs. And right off the bat, let's just take a look at a smile, because a smile is one of those things people always say, if the smile doesn't work, then nothing else seems quite right. So here we have a few different smile options. And when I'm looking at these things, I always like to move the eyes a little bit. Here you can see the dilate works really well in both directions. Of course, we can dial in a little bit of the other smile if we want. Let's turn the first one off and just take a look at the full shape of the second smile. Something that's a little more toothy. Shows maybe a little bit of gum. And these work incredibly well together. Then there's a third smile where the lips stay together. Then, rather than using the split morph feature that's in Poser, the morph splits where we've taken, say, a smile and split it off into left and right, the way we've done that has actually been very different than just splitting a morph. A lot of times in Poser, developers out there can tell you, if you have a morph that runs across the center line and you split that, you can end up with kind of a hard line where it's cut it just between left and right. So we've managed to really go through and keep the original sculpt, say of Smile 2, okay, but we've smoothed it and kept it in such a way that we can blend together the left and right versions of it without having any kind of hardness down the center. And the methods that we use for doing this have really allowed us to create facial expressions that blend with each other. I feel like they blend with each other in a way that's a little smoother than what the experience has been a lot of times in Poser past, and really takes more of the kind of work that we would do. We also work on things like broadcast and film and gaming, and we're really taking a lot of effort to try and bring the sort of work we do in those areas into the hands of Poser users, and part of that is giving you guys just the smoothest, most interactive morphs that we can come up with. So let's turn these off and take a look at some of the other expressions, like a cower. It's nice, for when someone's afraid. There's also a fear down here that's a little different, a little more extreme. A frown. We've tried to include variations of some of these too, so that you're not stuck with just a single frown or a single smile or a single fearful face. You really have some options here right out of the box. So, nice little scowl called severe. Anger. Oh, it's very upset. Anger 2, even worse. kind of like disgust. You know, something's just not right. Fear, which we just mentioned. Joy. That's a really hard one to get and you know, to sculpt out and get just right. And I put a lot of work into that, and I'm very happy with that. You know, that combination of a smile and the eyes brightening, surprise, sadness. And then I personally do a lot of very action-oriented artwork, you know, dramatic action, sci-fi, and horror type scenes. So characters, you know, yelling in stressful situations is kind of important to me. So I included things called angry yell, which you'll find a lot of the characters that I've done through the years will have angry yell on them. It's just kind of a thing that I've gotten used to. So I made sure that I had a couple of those. Then we have 2 different grimaces. And if you push these all the way up, they do get rather extreme, but the idea is to give you a really wide range of movement so that you can dial in how much you want, rather than reaching the end of what it does, you know, in the end of the dial's movement and thinking, man, I really wish I could just push that a little further. You know, we've taken it a little over the top sometimes so that you have kind of a wider range that you can work with. So looking at some of the other morphs, we have a full range of phonemes and an included lip sync file, which anyone who hasn't animated, doesn't animate in Poser, hasn't messed around with lip sync, you can find lip sync under Window, and then it's under Talk Designer. It's not called lip sync anymore, but it's the action of lip syncing. So you can go into Talk Designer, and there's a whole other tutorial waiting to happen just on using that. But we're fully compatible with that and have our own custom XML files that use this battery of phonemes we've included, so that you can make her talk very easily and very effectively. We've also included some little things for the inner mouth. I think is kind of an overlooked area in characters, but if we were to go in and just open her mouth wide so that we can show you the inner mouth, you'll see, first off, this is a contiguous mesh. There are no separated meshes here. The only parts of Scarlet that are separated mesh are the eyelashes and parts of the eyes. The inner mouth is all contiguous, which really gives us a lot more options for creating some very smooth and interesting morph shapes. So with the mouth open, let's go in and look. We have a lot of very handy, kind of standard sort of movements for the tongue. I don't want to spend too much time on those. Some of the other things that I wanted to highlight were the abilities to do different things with the teeth. For instance, something I've noticed down through the years rendering different characters is that depending on your angle, the distance from the head, if the mouth is open, sometimes, you know, this is 3D. This is not 100% real. So sometimes you may end up looking at something and seeing the gaps between the teeth show up. Or you may want to close those gaps or open them for whatever reason, and want a little bit of control there that you just don't necessarily have right out of the box with a lot of other figures. So we've included some shaping for that will allow us to open up those gaps really wide, which can do some very ugly things, or we can close them up, which will push them together, and it works really well in conjunction with ambient occlusion to give a little more density in that area. We've also included teeth length, because not everyone's teeth are the same. Some folks have, really large teeth. Some folks have smaller sorts of teeth, and we've included ways for you to combine these together and affect that aspect of the character. If we look, here's the teeth length top. And there's also gums height, which will raise and lower the depth that the gums cover the teeth. And then for our vampire lovers out there, we have pointed canines and length that we can dial in for the canines. I'm a vampire fan, so I just include that sort of thing by default. So now let's go on to the dial group labeled jaw, lips, and mouth. Let's close that mouth back up. And we have a number of different mouth opens. There's a lot going on right here that we can get into. Simple mouth open. Mouth open wide. Mouth open partial. More of a parting of the lips with some slight jaw movement. Okay. I thought it was really important to try and include some different shapes for an open mouth rather than just open close. So there's that. Then we have two different morphs, jaw shifting left and right. Then the ability to move the lips, really based on more muscle movement type references. Then there are some other morphs here that are kind of for shaping and just helping give you some almost sculptural sorts of features on the head. Like lips pressed forward, lips width is very handy. Kind of emulates the push and pull of the cheek muscles around the sides of the mouth. The ability to suck the lower lip in, I thought was a nice touch. Then, kind of like our advanced proportion system, which is another video that hopefully you're checking out, we've also included some morphs that do some pretty interesting things. Let's just go to one of these and we'll show you what it does rather than try to explain it too much. If we use mouth scale, this gives us total control over the proportion of the mouth, and that is kind of interesting. You know, that gives us a starting point for some very creative things. We also have a chin point, jaw squareness, lips fullness, chin cleft, and last, probably the lip morph that I put the most time into was pucker. Wanted that pucker to be able to work really, really well. Arr, nice snarl. So, the cheeks, the ability to inflate them, cheeks sunken, cheekbones. There's a lot going on right there. With the nose, we have nose width, nose contours I like because we can go from a very sharp sort of shape to something much softer. We've tried to group these in a way and name these in a way that's as intuitive as we can possibly make them. So now if we go into the eyes, kind of like with the mouth scale, this one's particularly interesting, I think. Is the eyes size. There's a lot of dials on the eyes here, so I have to kind of look around and find them. There it is, eyes size. So this one's really interesting. We can go very, very tiny or very, very large. Then we also have included, which is a standard for us on really all of our figures that have eyes, we've included remote controls for the look direction, eyes up and down, eyes side to side. You'll notice that it doesn't just move the eyes. If you were to look at someone as their eyes move, the muscles around the eyes are moving as well. So we include some of that secondary movement in our morphs and in our controls. Then we keep the ability to drive the eye dilates on the head rather than having to do it on the eyes themselves. So here you can see her blink. And we have a lot of interesting shaping down here with things like the upper lid creasing, lower lid creasing, eye slants, eye slant outward, eyes more angular. As a comic book guy, I do a lot of comic book art and hand-drawn comic book art. There's a characteristic of a lot of comic book women's eyes that has this kind of angular nature that I wanted to be able to have in this model as well, so we've included that. And so right out of the gate, we have just a lot of things that you can do with this. We've included lash curling and some dials for lash sizes. Go for that crazy over-the-top glamour effect. And the last thing we'll look at is the brow. So these are split, but just like I mentioned earlier with our split morphs, it's not a straight split like in Poser. This is actually a sculpted split that crosses the center line for something a little more natural. Brow wrinkle actually shows up a little better from the side, but you can see what that does. The way that pulls the muscles around the brow. So that's just a quick look into the default face morphs for Scarlet. We do have a very robust add-on package of more facial morphs for shaping and styling, that will help you create your own characters. That'll be released either at the same time that she hits, or it might be slightly after, but keep an eye out for that. So I just want to thank you for watching, and hope you will enjoy our new human figure Scarlet. Can't wait to see what kind of artwork you all create. Until next time, this is Les, and we are 6S1 Media. Thanks.